Morning Joe and the Pro. Hey Pro, how you doing?
Doing good, Marco. Not used to you being this bubbly this early, so good to see the change. You're coming over. You're getting out of the dark side and coming over to what people do is get up in the morning and go to bed at night.
Yeah, well, you know what? F you. Got too much to do. We got to get shit done. It's video day. It's Wednesday. Got, all kinds of stuff happening here in Vegas, meetings, everything. It seems like I just saw you a few hours ago, and here we are back, Morning Joe and the Pro. We're going to take a look at NBA today, Ralph. We've got two games tonight. Of course, everybody doesn't know he's Ralph Michaels. I am Marco D'Angelo. I am sitting in for the Prez. He'll be back, I think, on Friday. Got one more day of me. Prez. Well, I'm sorry to insult you, Ralph. That's crazy, me calling you Prez. You look at this one tonight. Let's start with Boston and Milwaukee. If you've watched the last couple games of this series, you think this one's over. It's not going back to Boston. Does Boston just fold up the tents and roll over and play dead, or does or do they come up and give it a game and somehow steal one in Milwaukee? They win the first game by 22 points, and man, they haven't done anything since then. They've shot 39, 43, and 37% in the following three games after trashing Milwaukee in game one. Paying a premium tonight. This is the biggest number of the series. We're looking at the number up to 9, total of 218.5. Tell me your thoughts on this one.
I will not be on the game. And normally I love playing the contrarian spot where, Marcus Smart made his first game back, was only 1 of 7. Kyrie played poor at home. But, as you said, not only did Boston have such a good first game on offense and then shoot poorly, the same holds true on defense where they held Milwaukee to 34.8%. And then Milwaukee shot 44, 51, and 44 the last few games. I don't like the vibe I'm getting from the Celtics. I don't like the post game press conferences from Kyrie. I could not bet Boston. Like I said, I was looking for a reason to play on the Celtics, thinking that the Bucks have not been in the situation to win a game 2 and to move on, to win a second series and to move on and to do it in front of your home fans. But this team is just, I think they're too young. They're too good. They don't feel the pressure because it's not like they've been there and done that and haven't succeeded. Boston's the team that has been there and done that. But Boston, to me, just has a defeatist attitude. I do look for Boston to play a good bit of defense early. I think that's going to be their mainstay. So I do like under in the first half. But for the game, I probably think Milwaukee pulls away and clinches this tonight.
You look at Milwaukee, Giannis, what do you do with him? If you double down on him, he's hitting open guys, and it opens things up for Middleton and Bledsoe. They can bury you. And then if you try to play straight defense, you saw what he did in Game 4. He basically put Milwaukee on his back. I think he scored 39 in Game 4. It's a tough for them to defend the Bucks, and coming in, a lot of people, everybody knows about the Greek Freak. There's no question about that. But Milwaukee's not one of those household names, teams that were always in prime time and stuff. And if you haven't really watched this team play, there's more than just the Greek Freak there. This team's very good. They play great defense. But now you are getting into that territory. You're laying 9 points. It's a big number. I will give you some stats that say that Milwaukee should go ahead and win this again. You've got Milwaukee 11-3 against the spread this season when their total is in the range of 210 to 219.5. We're looking at 218.5 tonight, so that is in that angle, 11-3. Milwaukee 29-18 against the spread after a win by 10 points or more this season, so they don't let down. They've showed a profit there. This is a thing that you look at and talk about totals. They're still, putting up some points. But you know what? They're not shooting the three well. Neither team. The two teams in the last game combined to go 17 of 78 from three-point range. If they start knocking down some threes, that could make this a game where the total goes over the number. But then on the flip side, too, missing three-pointers, and if you get a rebound and clear it out, you got, transition, and you can, get some quick buckets. So that's a stat that, you can look at it as the glass half empty or half full. If they're knocking down threes, obviously the game's going over the total, but on the same token, if you're putting up that many threes, it's going to present some fast break opportunities if you get some long rebounds and clear it out quickly. So for me in this one, I just think your first statement is the statement that I agree with, being, the contrarian. And I think the contrarian play tonight is Boston. I don't think anybody's giving them a shot to go in there, but I don't think I will be involved in the game.
Brad Stevens, just FYI, since 2015. So we have the 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 seasons, 5 years. The Celtics have only been an 8.5-point dog or more 9 times, and he's gone 7-2 against the spread. So the losses were at home to the Cavaliers when they had nobody, and at home to the Warriors. So, Brad Stevens, with what he's done as a coach, he would be the one guy. Actually, he would be the guy I would want for a one-game adjustment like this. But the NBA's changed, let's be honest. And I think Kyrie Irving right now is thinking about where he's going to be playing next year and not what he's doing tonight.
Let me ask you one last question before we move to the next game. Kyrie Irving, now you saw him all those years in Cleveland, was great in Cleveland until that last year, and with, you used the word chemistry issues and stuff. Now this is a second landing spot. Have you changed your opinion of him at all? Do you think he's, bad for a team? Let me put it this way: if you're a GM, are you going out and looking for him? Would you want him, or would you pass on him?
If he's the number one, no. I have always said my opinion hasn't changed. He's not a number one player. He thought he could be a number one player in Cleveland, and that's why he wanted to go. He was convinced that he was good enough to be a LeBron or a Curry or a Harden or a Greek Freak or a Kawhi, but he just played so much better because he had LeBron with him, as every player in the world does. No question. Like LeBron or don't like this LeBron, if you play with LeBron, you're a better player, period. And Kyrie is a much better player. Kyrie is not a number one. Just off the point real quick, over at the Superbook, they opened the Knicks 16-1 next year to win it all, because they think they could get Kyrie and Durant. Okay, if they just get Kyrie, betting against that 16-1 will be the best money you've ever made in your life. Kyrie is not a number one. If he goes to a team as a number one, that team's in trouble.
All right, let's get to the one everybody wants to talk about. This is the series. This is, in a lot of people's mind, we keep saying it, for the NBA championship. It's the Golden State Warriors playing host to the Houston Rockets. Series knotted 2-2, and none of the 4 games have been decided by more than 6 points. So here we are. We're looking at a 6-point spread with the Golden State Warriors. We know the public. They have been, wishy-washy in this series. First 2 games, the public showed some love for Houston in Golden State. They weren't pretty, but Golden State got the wins in both of them. They got the cover in the second one, barely.
Houston should be 4-0 against the spread.
Yeah. And now we're sitting here. The world, and I mean the world, was on Golden State in Game 4. And they didn't get the job done. And another one where Houston had total control for 3 3/4 of that game. Golden State made a late run to get it interesting and then end up with the tight final score, but the Rockets got the job done. Do you go back onto the Rockets tonight and take those 6 points because it looks awful inviting, or do we finally see a 4-quarter performance by the Golden State Warriors? How do you see this one?
Again, full disclosure, I'm not going to be on this game, but it was close. The chicken in me is afraid to go against Golden State off those losses, but the handicapper in me says there is absolutely no reason to bet Golden State. Curry and Thompson. Curry's 12 of 46 from three-point range. Thompson 8 of 26. The bench has given him 18 points in the last 2 games and only 42 points in a 4-game series. And if you say, Houston has shot 26 more three-pointers than Golden State, that's how Golden State normally survives. And if you say, well, Golden State shot 46, 44, and 47% the last 3 games, they're going to do better than that. I'll come back and say to you, Houston only shot 47, 48, and 43% in those 3 games. So Houston hasn't played great. They played better than Golden State. This is a team that is fired up from having them on the ropes last year and burning. And that motivation from one year to another is a powerful tool. The difference being this year is, you could have motivation, and if you're a bad team against a better team, it doesn't mean shit. But if you have motivation and the teams are even, like they are now, or close to being even, and then you have that motivation, it's a driving force. To me, it's clear. Houston or nothing, very close to using Houston, just didn't pull that final trigger.
All right. I haven't pulled any triggers yet this morning because we are taping early. My thoughts on this one, I will agree with you on the part with Houston. The advantage I give Houston here is all of the pressure in the world is on the Golden State Warriors tonight. It's 2-2. You know the history of the NBA. Game 5s, tied 2-2. Team that wins Game 5 generally is the team that goes on and wins the series. Golden State, defending champs, come in. We heard all the stuff last year. Why, Houston, if Chris Paul doesn't get hurt, they're knocking off the Warriors and everything. So they definitely got something to prove. And the Warriors laying a number in a series that's not been decided by more than 6 points, and you're laying 6. Yeah, the Rockets look pretty good. But here's a couple outliers that I'm looking at from this series. And let's go to Game 4. As good as Houston played, the Warriors still made that run at the end. And I had Houston in Game 4. And I was like smiling the entire game because the world was on the Warriors and I was on Houston. I'm sitting there rolling along. And then I was sweating at the end. Let me tell you, because, again, until you slay the dragon, that dragon's still breathing fire. And the Warriors came charging back. They came charging back in a game, and here's where the difference of the game was. You talked about the shooting overall being the same, percentage-wise close, but the difference of the game was from three-point range. The Rockets are knocking down the threes. The Warriors are not. 8 of 33 were the Warriors in Game 4 from three-point land. The Rockets, again, wasn't a great percentage. They were 17 of 50, so percentage-wise, they both shot about the same, but they hit 17 threes versus only 8 threes for the Warriors. That's a huge difference on the scoreboard.
26 more in the series, so 26 more is 678 points that they've gotten more from three-point land.
Now, I know it's their game, Ralph, but I'm sorry. If you're chucking up 53 pointers in a game, that's not a recipe for success long term. Okay? Short term, you get away with that. Somewhere that's going to bite you. Somewhere you're going to have that slightly off night. And if you're putting up that many threes, again, when you miss threes, it should create some transition. I just think, and this is one of those ones where I got to decide if I'm going to pull the trigger. It's more of my gut that the Warriors are going to find a way to get this game. And I think the public is going to be on the Rockets. They're going to get that. I want to see where this number goes. And I'm looking as we're speaking. One of the books has already gone to 6.5.
Jeff Sherman was on the Las Vegas Sports Line yesterday from the Superbook, and he said 90% of that first day money was on Golden State. They actually had to bump it up to 6, and now, like you said, it's up to 6.5. So
now
the money's Golden State.
I will, full disclosure, the book that just popped to 6.5 here in town is Stations. And Stations has more of a recreational type fan base. They're a local sports book.
You bet the over and you bet the home team, right?
That's
a stat for you, what you talked about. I'm looking back right now since 2004. This is every playoff series, game 5, where the home team won the first 2 games and the visitor won the next 2 games. In game 5, the home team is 22-9 straight up, 17-14, 55% against the spread. But let me just look here, because there certainly has been a trend since 2014. 4, 4, 2, 5, 2, 6, 2, 6, 2, 7, 3, 8, 3, 9, 10-3 against the spread for that home team to hold serve game 5 in the series, with the home team winning the first 2 and losing the last 2.
Okay, yesterday I gave you an angle that was a league-wide angle. It came in both games yesterday. It said to take the home favorites. They both got there. Wish I would have put them out. I didn't. Those were nice angles that made for good podcast talk, but I didn't pull the trigger. I was on a total yesterday. I have another league-wide trend. This is the last 5 years. This one, play on home favorites, revenging a loss where the opponent scored 100 points or more, and that home favorite is coming off 2 or more consecutive road losses. That's the Golden State Warriors, obviously, losing games 3 and 4 on the road. Over the last 5 seasons, league-wide, that's 90-45. That's a 66.7% ATS. Now, granted, that's a league-wide system. It has, regular season in there. This is playoffs, but it is a trend and an angle and a setup, just like those 2 I gave yesterday that got the money. So I'm putting that angle out there for you, Ralph. I'm sure you're going to look something up on the database and try to squash it or confirm it.
No, I didn't do that, because it's the one thing about the 100 points is that I found that yes, they're relative, but they're so less relative the last couple of years because the NBA has changed so much. And like I said, the over-unders this year, if you took the average over-under in Vegas this year, it was 11 points higher than last year.
Yeah.
I mean, you normally have a 1-point jump. Average over-under for a season is this, but to have an 11-point in the historic scoring. So I didn't look it up, but like I said, if it's a league-wide angle, yes, it's mostly regular season, but it has success, number one. And number 2, it's up for the user to decide if those parameters are something they think are relative and carry over to a playoff game. In that game, I certainly do. So I agree with it.
All right. Well, Ralph, those are breaking down the 2 games for us. We really didn't take any definitive sides with us in these 2, but that's the beauty of sports betting. And the house has that, the 10% VIG. They got that 110 to 100. But to combat that, we don't have to play every game. That's how, our defense against that minus 110 that they have the edge on. We can just say, you know what? Sorry, I'm not wagering on this particular ball game.
Marco, the one thing, I get that often. Why don't you have more plays in the summer at this point in time? And, you have a lot of volume in college basketball and you have a lot of volume in college football. And here's my rule. If there's 1 game or there's 50 games, tonight's game to me has to have the same value as a December Saturday where there's 130 college basketball games and there's 20 college football games. If this play is as strong as my top play in the NBA that day, it's a release. If it's not, it doesn't make the card. And everything to me gets relative to that same percentage play. If it's a bankroll play for me, it's a bankroll play. So, no, there's only 2 games tonight we're choosing from. Is there as much value as a full Saturday in college basketball? To me, hell no. So I don't have a play. So, yes, we are not making a definitive determination on any game, but it's all right to pass, like you said. So just my extra little ramblings to go into that statement.
All right, guys, just a programming note. First pitch we're going to have today, it's going to be a condensed version. Ralph's going to join me for a second video. We'll have that up shortly after this one. Today is video day at WagerTalk. We'll be in studio. It's always a busy day for us on Wednesdays. Got a lot of videos to talk about. VR is going to be in the studio as well, talking some UFC. We got some great questions from listeners that have asked on Twitter for us, and that's something, guys. Hey, if you have any questions, you like the kind of things we talk about, send us a question. Whether you do it on Twitter or you do it. Best way to do it is on Twitter, and we'll get it answered for you. But put it here in the comment section as well. We look at these, get back to you, and we want to have stuff that you guys want to hear about. This is all about making everybody, it's a corny phrase, but we want to make you a better. And that the only way you can do it is learn. Ralph, I know you're the same way. I'm the same way. We're still learning. Every day you learn something new. You broaden things. You see something you didn't see before, and you just keep building that knowledge bank. Everything, and I know the other day we were talking at dinner one day. You were talking about coming to Vegas has been you get to hang around and talk with more people. Just we're talking sports. There's sports people here. If you're in Cleveland, I'm back in Pittsburgh, there's not as many people that do what we do. Okay, so you can't pick people's brains, and that's just the think tank. It helps develop a different thought. How many times have me and you talked about something, you ran home and looked at the database, and took that thought that we were talking about and put it into a question for the database, and that's what it's all about. So if you guys have something, ask us. We'll get it answered.
Or if it's a database question, just reach out to me at Twitter at CalSportsLV. And, that's why I tweet out what I do, because I want to make people understand that there are so many fallacies in sports betting. This is a good bet. This is a good bet. And they're wrong. I mean, get the data and then make the determination yourself.
Yeah, there's so many things that are urban myths, and if you hear something enough times, Ralph, people believe that it's the truth. You know what I mean? All right, he is Ralph Michaels. I'm Marco D'Angelo. This is Morning Joe in the Pro. Stay tuned. A little bit later, same channel, same bat channel. You'll be able to find First Pitch with the dynamic duo once again. We'll be back. Thanks for watching Morning Joe in the Pro.